What is going on, my friends? Super Rugby Round 13 is in the books. Take a look at these results. Here's some really surprising ones. The Drua are fantastic in Fiji. They were absolutely routed by a clinical Blues team led by Beauden Barrett at his best, but not necessarily for the reasons you'd expect. We'll talk about that in a sec. An important win for the Reds in Sydney. A last gasp win, but it doesn't matter if it took 80 minutes. They got the job done. And then we're going to talk about the game of the round and the try of the year in Super Rugby, the most important try. I had to rub my eyes and make sure I wasn't watching the All Blacks. It was a different team wearing black. It was the Chiefs. We'll talk about that in a moment. And lastly, another really important fixture over in the West in Australia. The Brumbies are now in second spot. Oh boy, huge ramifications for the table as we head towards the finals. But let's break down every game. Then we're going to finish by looking at the standings. 34-5. Dang. I picked the Drua too. Can you blame me? I mean, they beat the Reds at home. Reds are a hell of a team this year. They can beat anyone at home. They beat the Crusaders at home even when the Crusaders go on to win the whole damn thing. So what was different this time? Well, it was a nighttime game. That might seem trivial to you, but I don't think it is. There's something about that sweltering afternoon heat that absolutely saps visiting teams. Just a little bit cooler conditions at night. If this game had opened up and really become Sevens-esque, coast-to-coast offload fest, Drua could have won it. I mean, I look at that scoreline and I still think, yeah, Drua could have won a game like that. The Blues didn't play that game. They simply refused to play the Drua on their own terms. They said, no. This is how we want to play it. We want to play it in your 22 exclusively. This was some serious territorial dominance from the Blues. I mentioned in my intro that Beauden Barrett was at his best. Now, normally when you hear that, you think it's line breaks, you think it's dancing feet. He was at his best with game management and kicking. Yes, Beauden Barrett was lethal from the boot. Both territorial kicks, pinning the Fijians right on their back fence, but also huge up and unders that were very well organized. He was in sync with his outsides. He was putting up these huge bombs, and the kick chase was excellent. And that's the difference between a mediocre kick and a great kick. It's the kick chase. And the Blues were on song in that department. The line speed was relentless. I mean, really, it was a lot of stuff done off the ball that fashioned this dominant, compelling win for the Blues. Defense, which was pretty much a shutout until a very late consolation try from the Drua. And as I mentioned, the kick chase. The work from the backs when the ball was in the air was critical. So what happened? The Blues got down into the right end of the field. They rolled up their sleeves. Now, a guy like Hoskins Satutu playing in the loose forwards, we know he's got X factor. We know about all his silky skills and tricks. What would have pleased both All Blacks coaches and Blues fans is that he did the tight stuff pretty well. He was involved in the rucks. He was involved in the rolling mauls. Solid stuff. A solid stint from him. And it was really just back to the future. It was the Blues of 2024, that championship team, pick and go, rolling maul, rumbling up the guts, taking the direct route. And it worked. So suddenly the Blues are back in the top six. And anything's possible. Moving on. The poor Waratahs. Oh, I picked this one. Wouldn't go their way. It did take almost the full 80 minutes, but the Reds deserved this. They are the better team this year than the Waratahs. They should be in that top six along with the Brumbies. Couple of concerning things here. Joseph Suali'i went down. It was just friendly fire. I believe it could have been Callaway, actually, his fellow teammate who just kneed him in the head. So he got a head knock. You'd bet your last dollar he's concussed. I mean, he really looked groggy afterwards. That's concerning from a Wallabies point of view. Hopefully, if he is concussed, and I hope he's not, but it looks pretty likely, hopefully he could move through concussion protocols and be back in a few weeks, safely, of course. let's hope it's not anything more nefarious than that, because the Wallabies are really going to need him against the Lions, who are coming down under very soon. Fraser McWright, back from a shoulder injury in recent weeks, his best performance yet for the Reds, instrumental. And again, I'm looking ahead to the Lions, guys. I'm already thinking about Wallabies jerseys. I'm thinking about who you're going to play to counteract this incredibly strong Lions squad named yesterday. You're going to need Carlo Tizzano from the Force, and you're going to need Fraser McWright. Otherwise, the Wallabies are just going to have their lunch eaten at the breakdown. And McWright showed that he is a force at the breakdown. The technique's great. The mobility's great. So the Reds, in the end, did just edge out an advantage up front. Not a particularly overwhelming victory. It went right down to the wire. Full credit to the Tars. But the Reds were good enough, and you kind of feel like that might be the nail in the coffin for the New South Welshmen. Time will tell. I predict they will probably stay out of the top 6 from here on out. But let's talk about, whoo, daddy, 1v2, Crusaders at home in Christchurch against the Chiefs. Man, talk about a game of two halves. Very cold night in Christchurch. Pumped up crowd, 16,500. Everything seemed to be stacked in favor of the home team. They'd just done their Crusaders Hall of Fame announcement. Guys like Greg Somerville, Caleb Ralph getting inducted in there. There were just good vibes all around. There was a feeling of confidence. There was a feeling, hey man, our boys are back. Yeah, they had a crap year last year, but no. We are going to Titletown. And it looked like that for the first 30 minutes. I don't want to say it was one-way traffic because the Chiefs were attacking hard. But the Crusaders just erected that championship defense. We saw it earlier this year against the Blues at Eden Park. It was special defense. It was knockout rugby defense. And we saw a bit of that tonight. Now, here's the thing. You look at the scoreline, Chiefs whomped them. But if the Crusaders can keep that defensive line going, the one that they showed in the first half, they are very much still contenders to make the grand final and even win it all. But they couldn't handle it for the full 80 minutes. The Chiefs' attack, man, it was struggling in the first half. D-Mac had to kick a lot because the rush defense was just swamping every guy wearing a black jersey. So D-Mac was canny. He read that. He started kicking, cross kicks, grubbers, just trying to get around that red and black wall that was relentless. And you did feel, even though the Crusaders were up at halftime, that if the Chiefs broke, well, the floodgates could open. And that's exactly what happened. 32 unanswered points. It was D-Mac who scored first after the break, took advantage of a little bit of space, danced through, and that was the beginning of a 3-try flurry. Bang, bang, bang. Chiefs scored. How did they do it? Well, they got a lot more pill because they started hitting the breakdown much harder in the second half. Wallace Sititi, good around the field, brilliant at the breakdowns. Luke Jacobson, the captain, instrumental in the breakdowns. And doing a great job subtly influencing the referee. At one point, the Chiefs got a penalty, turned into 3 points. D-Mac slotted it. But Jacobson wasn't happy. He was actually in the ref's ear. He said, hey, listen, glad to get the penalty. You know, we'll take the 3. But I think you should have let us play advantage. I think you should have given that another moment there. I thought that was a pretty interesting thing. It's lovely when you hear the mics pick up stuff like that, because that just showed how bloodthirsty the Chiefs were. They weren't just trying to get their points in 3s. They're thinking 5s and 7s. They were merciless. They were thinking try time. And that was great to see that attacking intent from the Chiefs. They were not shy. They were not in any way inhibited. They were absolutely going for it. And so that kind of pressure on attack started to tell on the Crusaders. they started incurring more penalties than you'd expect. Not rolling away in the ruck was one of the big ones, just kind of laying over the ball. And listen, the Crusaders are technically one of the best teams in the competition, but to me that just shows the pressure they were under. A little bit of cynical play, a little bit of illegal offside. You start doing that when you're up against an onslaught, and make no mistake about it, that 32-point haul from the Chiefs was an onslaught. It was a tsunami wave of points. All Blacks stood up, the bench for the Chiefs. Very important. Samisoni Takiahau was so fired up. His best game yet. Whooping, cheering, jumping up and down, roaring like a lion. He was pumped. He was fizzing. Samipeni Finau came off the bench. Lovely stuff from him. Very involved. So the bench lifted the Chiefs, and you almost want to say that Sititi and McKenzie are a little bit like the new McCaw and Carter. Now, no one's quite at that level, but in terms of a 1-2 punch, a combo, a forward and a back, pulling the strings, phenomenal. Phenomenal combination there. I saw them chatting, strategizing. The way Sititi energizes the pack, the way D-Mac guides the backline, those two are special players. And it's not a coincidence that neither was starting in the last couple of weeks when they were looking off color, when they were looking vulnerable. D-Mac starts, Sititi starts. Look at the result you get. Not saying it's a two-man team, but the data speaks for itself, guys. Look at that scoreline. With all due respect to Josh Jacob, I don't think you get that scoreline if he's pulling the strings at 10. I think that's a D-Mac special. I think D-Mac really inspired the team. So it was the breakdown pressure led by Jacobson that really told. As I said, it forced the Crusaders into some defensive errors, incurring penalties, and then the Chiefs could kick some penalties and kind of add insult to injury, just keep that scoreboard pressure mounting. That, in turn, meant that the Crusaders, who I don't want to say looked flustered, they still looked pretty clinical, but they were frenetic. They had to try things. They were moving maybe a little quicker than they wanted to move. I mean, they couldn't just roll from set piece to set piece and squeeze teams like they do when they get a lead. They were chasing the game. And so it just got a little bit loose. Long cutout balls from James O'Connor once he came on. Really quick recycling, frenetic stuff. And so they were always in danger of being intercepted because they were frantic. They were trying anything. That played into the Chiefs' hands. I want to talk about the best try I saw all round, and honestly, one of the best tries of the year. It was the last try from the Chiefs, probably about the 74th minute. This was phenomenal. I thought I was watching the All Blacks. It was a different team wearing black. It was 18 phases of pure carnage. The power, the precision was unbelievable. The ruck speed was lightning quick. Takiahau, Finau, Jacobson, McKenzie, everyone combining, forwards and backs, recycling the ball relentlessly. This wasn't the most spectacular, flashy try of the year. This was the most powerful try of the year. This was Chiefs power, Chiefs mana. This was the blueprint. If the Chiefs can unleash that power and precision, they're going all the way to Titletown. So look, definitely the most... Yeah, I'm going to call it, guys. That was the most impressive performance I have seen. Not the biggest win I've seen in Super Rugby, but when you consider it's against the Crusaders at home in Christchurch, what was riding on the line here? Potentially home ground advantage, top spot. Yeah, that was a hell of a performance from the Chiefs. All right, guys, let's finish up with the Brumbies and the Force. Brumbies got the win here. Rugby 101, better up front, better in the rolling maul, better at the set piece. Familiar names, Ikitau, Corey Toole, more Wallabies in top form. And that was good to see. The Force were celebrating 20 years in the competition. That was pretty cool. They've actually been an important part of Super Rugby, never won a title. But it's good to have rugby outside those strongholds of Brisbane and Sydney. I do have a soft spot for the Force. I remember when Matt Giddo first started playing with them, when they were just the fresh new kids on the block. Well, 20 years is impressive. They've certainly done better than the poor Melbourne Rebels with their longevity. But this was an important win for the Brumbies, because take a look at this. Number 2 on the table, the Crusaders drop down. The other important change here is that the Blues are now in the top 6. All eyes are on Moana Pasifika versus the Blues. You have to feel that it will just be one of those two teams that make it into the playoff picture. I cannot wait for that one. Who do you think will win that? The Blues or Moana Pasifika? Man, the way Adi Savia is leading the team, it's hard to go against Moana Pasifika. I think that the Force really are on the way down. They're in a spiral now. I feel the same way about the Waratahs, but there's still going to be a little bit of leapfrogging going on in that top 6. This is not settled at all. We've still got a few more weeks to go, guys. But good to see the Reds and the Brumbies in there. They are the form Aussie teams. I feel like they should be in there over the Tars and the Force. And the Blues, man, look, they've come right at the right time. It's a handy spot to be in. I mean, they were in the doldrums earlier on. It's amazing what Beauden Barrett can do. All right, guys, I will be back to break down round 14 of Super Rugby. Can't wait for that. Very exciting. The playoffs are just over there on the horizon. And I'm so happy to have you here with me on this journey. Please like, please subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one real soon. Oh, and one more thing. I want to thank my friend Ali for buying me this beautiful new 4K camera. Much appreciated. Ali, you're the best, and you have helped this channel more than you'll ever know. All right, guys, take it easy. Bye for now.